Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today for our second in our series of lockdown podcasts exploring colour astrology for the month. Can you quite believe that it's June already? So, if you have been listening to us throughout May, you will know that due to the lockdown restrictions, we have been unable to reach the studio to film our demonstrations. So once again, we will have to improvise. Let me just introduce ourselves if you haven't joined us before. My name is Laura and I am the IT half of our flowery duo.
And I'm Debbie, the floristry half of our duo. Welcome.
So in our last podcast, Debbie, we explained what Aspen Gold says about you if you are a June baby. Do you radiate charisma? Are you a loving and compassionate person who shows great personal warmth to all that you meet? As this is our second arrangement in our series, it covers funerals. So what design are we going to create today, Debbie?
So today, Laura, we're going to describe how to put together a Calla lily, a bonsai wreath. This tribute would be perfect for that loved one who brought sunshine into your life. It would suit someone that was articulate and energetic. It's rustic in its appearance and would be perfect for a green burial.
What makes it particularly suitable for a green burial?
Well, firstly, it mirrors the natural environment, and secondly, the simplicity and sustainability of the design. The ready-made wreath that we're using can be used again once the fresh products have faded and been removed.
So it definitely is an eco-friendly design. Something we always try to promote and encourage with all of our flower-minded followers and colleagues. So let's, as always, grab a cup of coffee and make a start. So what ingredients are we going to be using today?
So we're going to start with a bonsai wreath. I did actually mention that earlier. It's actually offered for sale on our website and they're 30 centimetres in diameter. You'll need your usual floristry toolkit, including scissors and natural twine. You'll also want a glue gun and some moss of your choice, some trailing ivy, and finally gold calla lilies.
Okay, it sounds like it's quite a minimalist design as there's not many ingredients being used. You would obviously still need to condition the calla lilies and ivy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's vitally important that they're conditioned because both the calla lilies and ivy will be without a water source once the design's made up. I wouldn't really describe it as minimalist, but it does use very few items.
So how far in advance would you make up this tribute? And is there anything you could do to make it last that bit longer?
Well, ideally, you should make it up at the last possible minute to achieve maximum shelf life. If you need the fresh products to last longer, I'd probably recommend using a water file for hydration on the end of every stem. These are obviously not biodegradable, but could be removed once the fresh items have faded and reused along with the wreath.
So if you didn't do the water fars, how long would you expect the arrangement to last?
I'd probably anticipate 12 to sort of 48 hours really. That's very much dependent on the environmental conditions it's placed in.
Okay, so now we know the ingredients. Where do we start?
Well, first we need to wind ivy through and around the wreath frame, ensuring that you get an even coverage, and it kind of adds a little bit of added interest to the base really.
So are you securing the ivy to the base?
Not at this stage. It can be secured in with the calla lilies, which we're going to add next, or at the very end. You may find it's a good idea to position the calla lilies on the wreath before adding them, so you can achieve a pleasing balance. The wreath itself will actually lend itself to natural placement.
Okay, that's a really good idea. Now, I know in the past when you've used calla lilies, the stems will often split and curl in conditioning. We've often taped the ends with something like clear anchor tape to prevent the splitting. Should you do this before making up the tribute?
Well, it shouldn't really be necessary. If some of the stems have curled during conditioning, then remove those parts before placing them on the wreath. As the colours will actually be out of water, they shouldn't really curl any further.
Okay. Now, earlier you mentioned about the water files being used to promote a longer shelf life. When should these be added to the stems?
Well, position your fresh products first, then add the files onto the stems on the reverse of the tribute. It'll be really difficult to thread the stems and the water file through the frame.
That's a really good tip. So now that just leaves us with the moss. Now, I noticed earlier you mentioned about a glue gun in our ingredients list. So you add the moss to the tribute using the glue. How do you decide where to position it?
Right, okay. Well, what I'd suggest is take a step back from the design and see where there are any obvious gaps or spaces that lend themselves to some moss. Bear in mind that this tribute needs to be three-dimensional. When it's placed on the coffin, people will be looking at it from a completely different angle to what you do when you're making it up and looking down on it.
That is really, really good tip, Debbie. Sometimes we forget that our designs are being viewed from every single angle. Is this where you secure the stems?
Well, you may actually find that gluing the moss in place has also secured the stems of ivy and calla lilies, especially as they've been wound through and around the wreath frame. Give the tribute a gentle shake, and if any of the stems require securing, tie them into position with some of the natural twine.
Lovely. Well, Debs, this draws our design to a close for our second podcast in our Colour Astrology series for June. Next up, we will be focusing on home decor. And what will we be creating?
Oh, Laura, the next design we're going to create is a dream catcher using both fresh and dried flowers.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So for now, thank you to everyone for listening to our podcast. We look forward to sharing our next podcast with you and hope you can join us for that. So for now, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. Until the next time, stay safe and well. Bye.